battery because it's plugged in directly.
Yeah, we haven't really touched it since the last time you looked at it.
Okay, October 31st. Halloween. Rainy. Cold. Actually, it's kind of snowing. I think that's slowed down. It was like, what, 70 like a week ago or something?
Yeah. Crazy.
Over at Tamara's, we're discussing her ingrown eyelash, which is awesome. That's probably first in the medical field or unique, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I'm
are
just weird. I'm just weird.
you're a starter, man.
I'm weird. That's all there is to it.
Let's see.
When I was in high school, I got voted, they called the class individualist, which I thought was kind of nice. But I realized later they probably meant class weirdo, but they couldn't really say that.
Yes, that was. I think Mom was gonna send me to a special school. Oh wow, because I'm just so smart. I didn't think about it till later, kind of.
Yeah, later on you kind of like, ha.
Well, I don't know, but they're genius with it. Einstein said the genius is what, 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's the kooky people that decide to go around the world the other way, and
That's right.
see what's on the other side, wander down to the other side of the hill, and
That's right.
I'm sure there's land, somewhere across the sea. Why don't we all get into a boat and head on out,
See what we can find. That sounds good to me.
Doing something different, I guess. And, I'm glad you've done a lot of things different, and a lot of things very well.
Thank you, John.
I mean, the Carl Rennie initiative, Lewy Body initiative, is something that's should have been around when Carl was going through it, and so you kind of filled in the, dotted the I's and crossed the T's, right?
Yeah.
Or
there you go.
crossing the I's and dotting the T's, however it works.
Yeah, you help too. I mean, you help. Without your, support, it wouldn't have happened.
You've done stuff with the Cool Cities initiative.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I'm not, I don't have a good memory.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to bear with me. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. So I'll back up just a little bit and say that I moved to Michigan. It was the beginning of 1991, because the economy had kind of collapsed in at least New England. I don't know about out here, but it was a mess in New England. And I had been working for the city of New Haven. I had been the director of cultural affairs, and the city just about went bankrupt when the economy cratered. So what do you do when you run out of money? Wipe out the arts. The smallest department you've got, that'll make a big difference. Woo! So that's what I did, or that's what they did. So I was out of a job, and my first husband Terry and our relationship had been pretty rocky, and he lost his job also. He was an attorney and he lost his job. We lost our house because the mortgage was more than the house was worth at that point. So I started looking for other jobs and got a job at Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village. I said, well, sounds good to me. So I got in my trusty little car and drove out here with my plants and some furniture, and that was it. Yeah, moved to Michigan.
How long were you living? How long had you separated with Terry?
With Terry? I think we had been separated about a year. Yeah, we separated, and yeah, I think from about the time that we separated till the time that we were divorced was about a year. Fairly fast.
So he was an attorney. What else? What else did he do?
He was an attorney. He
The good things and the bad things, I guess.
Yeah, he was. He was a good guy. He very smart guy. He had a master's degree in English from the University of Chicago, law degree from Georgetown. He had worked for a congressman from New Jersey. He was an aide. He came from an Irish Catholic family and loved all things Irish.
Big family?
Big
Yes.
family, 5 boys.
Wow.
The mantra in his family, apparently, at the dinner table, was there were 2 kinds of people in the world, the quick and the hungry.
Okay. So that sounds like a very, yes, motivated
It was a pretty boisterous,
upbringing.
yeah. So I think a pretty boisterous household. He had a good sense of humor. His brothers were a lot of fun. We weren't the right people for each other. It was all right. So came out here, started working at Henry Ford Museum, and I was the marketing manager there, and had a marketing budget of about $1 million. Even with $1 million, it wasn't enough.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big budget. It was a good place to be. You know, it's a great museum. The village is real interesting. It was a time of a lot of change going on at the museum. They were trying to become more updated. A lot of their exhibits had gotten kind of old and musty, and so they were trying to upgrade things. So that was interesting.
People expect to walk into a museum, everything's nice and fancy, you know, and
Yeah.
of course it's all free too. So
Yeah.
somewhere there's a logic gap or something. There's
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and then you know, I mean, it's an important place. So, I'm trying to think, who came? Was it a presidential candidate came? I think one time, and there was some sort of a debate in the museum. I remember the Secret Service was all over the place, and all the staff was told not to look out the windows because there were like snipers on the roofs, and you know they didn't want to think like anybody was going to try picking off the candidate or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
what'd you do there, or what'd you?
Well, I was the marketing manager. I worked with the advertising agency. We would come up with ad campaigns. How can we, try to encourage more people to come, and where are we going to put our advertising? It was very educational because I had never really done that kind of thing before, so I learned a lot. And one of the big challenges for the museum was because they didn't have changing exhibits. Everything that's there is pretty static. It's just there. And so just about every kid in Michigan in the 4th grade comes to Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village and does the tour, and then they don't come back until they have a kid in the 4th grade. So how do you get people to come back, and been there and say, oh yeah, I was there in the 4th grade, great museum, haven't been back since.
Like looking at the same thing twice, it gets stale and
Yeah.
we don't want it anymore. It's, you know, it's already been looked at. What is that? What does that mean? It's still the same thing.
But yeah, they didn't, you know, they had a lot of fun, you know, a lot of special weekends where they'd have like old car weekend, and these people would come in with really old cars, and then some of the muscle cars of the 50s and 60s, and, you know, loads of people would come in to see all those cars, and I know doodly about cars, so but it was good, it was good. But I left it in 1994, 95, I forget. Anyhow, I didn't like being a cog in a big institution. I like running my own show. So I left and I started my own business, Get Real Communications. And that was doing marketing for nonprofit cultural organizations. So I worked with, a lot of museums around the Midwest, museum associations, the state of Michigan, and that's how I came to work on the Cool Cities conferences, and, you know, have these big statewide conferences that would bring anywhere from 500 to 1,500 people to Lansing for, it'd be a day-long conference with loads and loads of speakers and people coming in from all around the country as speakers, and you know, have to organize how to get the attendees from here to there, and writing the program book, and dealing with kind of crazy committee members.
Details, details, details.
That's it. Kind of like herding cats. Yeah, your dad was a real trooper. He helped me on a number of them. So I was here for a number, let's see, up until 1998, doing my little business, and I had a cat with me, and my first cat, Alexa, and I had saved up my money, and I bought a little condo that was just a good size for me and a cat.
It's on South Main, or?
Yes, right by Briarwood, that little condo over there.
I remember that. I think I was over there once. I remember it kind of. It was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice little place. It was a good size for one person and a cat. And I met your dad the week after I signed and closed on it. And then all of a sudden it was being a cat and your dad. And the three of us in that little place, it got a little crowded. But your dad and I think we lived there for, how long were we there? I guess about a year and a half, 2 years maybe. And after about a year, we decided it was really too small.
Enough to get quote unquote cozy.
Cozy.
Or maybe too cozy, kind of. Like, all right, I'm going to sleep. I'm working.
Yeah.
Like, who's light on or light off? Kind of.
That's it. That's it. That's it. So your dad and I started looking around for a house. We thought we would, buy a house, and we were driving around and looking for something. And Melissa was home at that point, and your dad and I, Melissa, I think her boyfriend at the time, we just happened to be driving in this neighborhood in Water Hill, and all of a sudden we saw this sign, a for sale sign, in front of this big old white church. And everybody went, "A church for sale, woohoo!" Yeah. And my criteria for our getting a house was it had to be architecturally interesting. And I didn't care if it was modern or old, just as long as it was interesting.
They've made missile silos into houses, actually, so.
That's even crazier.
You're not alone.
Oh gosh, yeah. So we looked at it, we looked all around, and your dad looked at the foundations, and he thought that the foundations looked good, and at least he knew what he was looking at. And we got a chance to get in here and thought it looked pretty cool. And the ceiling at the time in the church, it was this dropped ceiling. Do you remember that, John? The dropped ceiling?
I don't remember. I think the only thing I remember the was I think it'd been already opened up or something, and there was some kind of party like
Yeah,
neighborhood. What do you think? Kind of party,
yeah, yeah.
and which is very nice. It's very Carl and Tamara kind of thing. It's like, oh hi. It's just welcoming ideas. You know, one of Pop's sayings was, if you want to ask the 5 smartest people you know or something, and then go make a decision or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good advice. Tried to follow it, but I don't know that many smart people.
Well, it's a good thing you haven't asked me, because I'm not that smart.
Or what? No, that sounded.
No,
okay, sorry.
No, you.
I've only had. No, I haven't had coffee yet this morning.
Geez.
So.
Oh, I'm surprised you're standing, John.
Uh,
I had my coffee, I wouldn't be. But you're right, we had a big party, and we invited a lot of the neighbors to come and all our friends, and we had big sheets of paper tacked to the walls, and markers and crayons, and people could write suggestions, they could draw pictures, they could do whatever. We had a lot of wine, so everybody could, their creative juices could be flowing. We had food. It was a good party, and everybody walked around and looked at the church. And half the people thought that this was a really cool thing that we were doing, and the other half of the people thought we were absolutely nuts, and we should just tear the whole thing down and start from scratch. But we didn't, and it took about 2 years to design it and build it up to the point that we could at least move into it.
Yes, provided the city gave you permits,
Yeah.
which
You know what the city inspectors are like.
I know what the city inspectors are like. Yes.
Terrible.
It was yeah, I went through over at 522 Pop's rental property. One of I think many. He had one over out West Liberty, I think, or Summit. No, not Summit. What's that one street? Pauline. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was
yeah.
he had a mental health. There was a home for kids with problems, and then there was, I think there was one on White Street. I think he's mentioned that name.
Okay.
But and this was the one downtown or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's had the one inspector said, "Oh, well, I don't have permits for this porch." Pop really wanted a wraparound stone porch,
That's right.
but ended up with a wooden porch, and then yeah. So, anyways, it was about 8 or 9 months because the gap in between the railings, which weren't even required by code, was greater than 4 inches. It was 4 inches and a 1/16 because the wood had shrunk or something, and this inspector didn't know that. Or anyway, sorry, off subject. But you guys were trying to move in
Yeah.
legally, I guess.
The inspector was giving us guff. And we finally moved in anyhow. We just said to hell with it. And moved in. And then I think after we'd been living here for 6 months, the inspector came by and he goes, it looks like you're living here. I guess I should just give you the permit or whatever, the certificate of occupancy. So he did, yeah. And then we had a little party and burned it. That was fun. But it was a lot of fun building it and thinking what we wanted, and we made it just the way we wanted it to be. And did the goofy stuff that we wanted, and had a lot of fun. And had a lot of fun here in the house, and a lot of good parties, parties with our friends. We had a fundraiser for Obama the first time he was running for president, and a bunch of artists donated artwork, and we auctioned the artwork off, and it was the Obama Artorama. And we raised $10,000, which was pretty darn good.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, we were pretty darn pleased. And then we got to be friends with the congregation that we bought the church from, the Church of God in Christ. And the people, our neighbors here, would tell us how much they had enjoyed listening to the choir, because it's a black congregation. They were real rock and gospel choir, and neighbors would tell us how in the summertime, you know, all the windows would be open, maybe the front door would be open because the church didn't have air conditioning, and you could hear the choir singing, and people said they would just stand outside and listen, or they'd sit on the front steps and listen. So for several years, your dad and I invited the congregation to come back somewhere between Christmas and New Year's, and they had a chance to see what we had done with their old church, and they would sing, and we'd invite, you know, all the neighborhood to come in, and the neighborhood would come, and you'd see all the church members. They're all dressed up to the nines. They all look fabulous, the ladies with their hats and everything, and all our neighbors, you know, they're there in their blue jeans and their flannel shirts. And we'd have cookies and hot cider and stuff. And then at the end, we'd ask anybody if they wanted to make a donation. It would go to the church, and the church put together food baskets for people in need over the holidays. And we would raise about $400 each time. So that was a really nice thing. So that made us real happy that we were able to do that. Nice congregation.
Yeah, I came to one of those, I think, and this house, even though it's very sturdy, it was shaking, vibrating, but good resonating, I guess.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah. We had, music, we've had, you know, a number of concerts here. We've had, oh God, what's his name? I'm blanking on him. He's the singer-songwriter. He lives in this area. He performs in the Ark sometimes.
Local guy.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the song about,
Is it Joe somebody?
no, gosh, Dick Gregory,
Is he involved with the people down on, was it Liberty, that place right on the corner, that always play?
Yeah. Yeah, well, whoever
Those
he
people.
is. Those people, yeah. Yeah, anyhow, he played here.
I think my neighbor is actually connected to them, or used to play with them as well.
It could be.
So there's that.
There's that.
These could be totally different people. I think we're thinking of the same.
We're thinking of the same guy. So anyhow, we had him, and then the very first year of the Waterhill Music Festival, the man who organizes that event, Paul Tinkerhess, he very nicely came here and asked us if we would be willing to host an event the night before the festival, because once the festival's on, the musicians, they're all playing at the, you know, in the front of their houses, so they can't very well go to hear each other. He said, you know, it would be nice if we could get everybody together and they could all have a nice time,
Yeah.
you know, to kick off the event. So we did that, and we hosted this woman. Her name was, now this name I remember, Vienna Tang.
Tang, yeah. She celloist, right?
No,
Or
she's
something,
a
or
pianist, but
Okay.
she's a singer-songwriter too. Tang or Tang, I can't remember, one or the other. Anyhow, she did this concert. I mean, it was, I guess she's the kind of person that you pay real money to go here. But she was here, she played the piano, and, you know, we had a lot of musicians here. It was nice, it was really nice. And, yeah, we've had a lot of concerts here that have just been a lot of fun. And just nice, just real pleasant. And people seem to have a good time when they're here. We had nice Christmases. When your dad was still living here. That was really good. You want to say anything about those?
I think I've got some video from that, but I don't remember some of them.
We had a big Christmas tree.
I remember the big Christmas tree, yeah, putting that up.
You did.
That was a
A
task.
project.
And I remember, like, you know, Tomo and Marie was
Yeah, she
pretty
was
small.
little, yeah.
Um,
That was a lot of fun when she was little, when she was here, and she would get like a billion presents.
and it doesn't even matter when, like, back then it's like, wow, it's just something, it's just fun, just come dive into the bag and tear everything up and
Yeah. Yeah.
go to town.
Yeah,
There's
those were nice times.
um,
Tomo would cook Japanese for us quite often. We had some nice Japanese food.
yes.
And,
Yeah. Do you Skype or at all? 'Cause
I don't Skype. I've never
Okay.
done that.
Melissa's on Skype. I think Mary's done it with her a couple times.
Ah.
Or Tamara, rather. They're on the 13-hour schedule though, so
Yes.
they're on the
Just-
opposite.
Yeah, kind of passing ships in the night there.
Yeah, they live down under. Oh wait a minute, no, that's Seasons.
That's Susan's, yeah. Oh my. So yeah, so it was all good. And your dad and I traveled. Took some wonderful trips. We went to Greece. Went to Naxos. That's how we learned about Naxos. And then you went and stayed on Naxos.
Yes, and that was specifically, I think that was from your recommendations, and that's like one of the favorite places I've ever been to, I guess.
That's how? Oh, that is nice.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite
It was-
places too.
It's just, I didn't want to leave. It was just like, people there are just so mellow, and they're just like, yeah, tourists, whatever, you know, kind of,
Yeah, it's not touristy at all.
yeah, everybody was nice. The food was consistently above average, I guess. The lake wobegon, and
Yeah.
and it was just, they're all just kind of working class people. Nobody's in a hurry, kind of,
Yeah.
which is, you know,
Just really nice for a change.
I mean, Michigan is like, we've always been kind of like hardworking kind of thing, but there's always been kind of like a mid-level or like a little bit faster than mid-level pace, and like the East Coast is always like boom, 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 go, go, go.
Yeah.
And so, how was it? Where'd you go in Naxos for?
Well, let's see.
Did you go swimming?
Yeah, I'm thinking we stayed on Naxos. We were there for almost a week, maybe 4 days, 5 days, I guess.
That's not enough time.
No, not no time. we would go to this beach, Mikrivigli or something like that. It was about half an hour out of the main town.
To the west, to the left, or to the...
Yeah, kind kind of the west and south.
South, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we stayed.
Okay, yeah. And they would do that kind of parasailing thing. They'd start up like on a surfboard, and they had a big kind of kite, and the wind would grab them up, and the guys would go in the air with their surfboards, and some of them like flip around and everything.
You guys did that?
No, we didn't do it, but although your dad would have loved to have done it, I think. He was fascinated by it. We had like a zillion pictures. I thought it was funny.
He wanted to buy an ultralight at one time because it didn't require a pilot's license.
How does somebody who has a fear of height want to buy an ultralight?
I don't know. It must be like overload is like pleasurable or something. I don't know. Masochistic or something.
Honestly, that is so crazy. That is so crazy. Yeah, we went hang out on that beach. We had one of those little all-terrain vehicles. We'd go scooting along and went way up into the mountains and could look all around in the mountains, and went to some place where there were a couple of statues. They had been started to be carved, and then they broke, or there was a crack or something.
Yes.
They're just left there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. They're just in the field or, in the woods, and there's this
Yeah.
like half-carved statue there.
There was a orange grove, I think, around.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah, that statue's right near that orange grove. I know exactly what you're thinking of. Yeah, it's just totally crazy. So, yeah, it's like nobody's there but you. And this statue's been there for thousands of years.
yeah.
And the other place that we spent about a week in Athens. And then we went down into the Peloponnese and went into this town, Nafplion, which was, actually it was the first capital of Greece, when Greece declared independence in 1840s, I think. And the reason we went there, in part, it looked like it was a pretty place, but it was very close to this town, or this site, Mycenae, which is where Agamemnon was supposed to have lived. Agamemnon was he was the head honcho of the Greeks, and it was his wife, Helen. Was it his wife? Yeah, I think it was his wife. No, it was his brother's wife. His brother's wife was Helen, who was stolen by the Trojans and started the Trojan War. And Agamemnon was the older brother, and he didn't really want to go and haul off after, Helen. I mean, who knows, maybe she's just, some hussy and took off with this other guy. But his little brother, wanted to go back and, go off to Troy and get his wife back. And so this is where Agamemnon lived. So we went there and saw the remains of his place, and it's way up on a mountaintop.
He was real. So the Trojan War was...
Oh yeah. He was real. He had a daughter, I think I've got my mythology right, he had a daughter named Iphigenia, and the Greeks were all set to take off for Troy, and they were just down on the seacoast from Mycenae. And they're there, everybody's ready, they got their little bags all packed, they're ready to take off. And there's no wind in these, these ships. I mean, they were, sail driven as well as oars. So they keep waiting, no wind. And finally, I don't know how Agamemnon gets this bright idea that if he sacrifices his daughter, he'll get the winds, but he does. So the poor daughter, has to, on the altar, and sure enough the winds come. And that's how they end up taking off and going to Troy. Pretty ghastly. Yeah.
Okay. I thought the Greek god mythologies were bad with all the killing and brothers and fucking sisters and all that kind of stuff, but I guess I guess I did it in real life too.
Oh yeah, this I tell you, it's not going to be a girl dominated ancient Greece, that stuff happened. So, so anyhow, we had a really good time going down there and stayed there. So that was good. And then we went to Italy for your dad's 70th birthday and traveled around there with Kurt and Anita. Kurt from the Flanders. It was also Anita's 70th birthday that year. So we ended up traveling. We were gone for about 3 weeks. It was a long vacation.
And were you with Kurt and Anita the whole time, or you met up with them?
No, we were with them the whole time. We got a little van, a little car, and drove around. And we went down to Pompeii and wandered around Pompeii, and that was cool. And went to Naples, Sorrento, which was really pretty. We went up to, Assisi, which is, I wanted to see because there's a famous Italian early Renaissance artist by the name of Giotto, and he had done these frescoes there, and I really wanted to see the frescoes, so we went, and we just went and stayed overnight, and then we continued on. But the day that we were there was the day before this feast day of St. Francis. St. Francis lived in Assisi, and St. Francis is the one who spoke to the birds and the animals, and talked about, he was basically like the first environmentalist, about brother moon and sister sun or something, and how we're all kind of, we're all part of one big.
And that goes back
ecosystem.
before them. I mean, that's the ancient Hindu and ancient American Indian and Native Americans, and a lot of that was sun and nature based.
So St. Francis was kind of, talking about that. So anyhow, we were there the day before his big feast day, and there are lots of Franciscan monks. And it was like the big Franciscan monk convention. There were all these monks all wandering around in their little brown outfits and their little rope belts. And it was cool. It was very cool. And we went to Venice and stayed in Venice for a bit. And then we went to Tuscany. And that was cool because I had found this villa, and this villa could sleep, I don't know, 6 or 8. And so Sally and Joel and Jim and Marguerite came over and met us, and we all stayed in this.
Trouble!
So we were there for a week, a big pajama party. So we had a lot of fun. We went to Florence and Siena and cooked, and we were able to hire some ladies from the town who came up and cooked for us, and whatever was fresh that day is what we got. So we had rabbit one day, and they made the pasta right on the kitchen table. They made out the pasta, and then we had the best lasagna you've ever had in your entire life. Oh God, it was so good. It just melted in your mouth. It was just fabulous. And we ended up in Rome and came home. So that was wonderful.
That was a big trip.
It was a big trip.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big trip. Big trip. So we did that.
And that was,
let's see, if your dad was 70, he was born in 36, 2006. That would have been.
Oh, he was 70 years old then.
Yeah, let's see, July 9th, 1936, that's his birthday.
Because I think it was in the fall, I think the Thunder over Michigan, and we took for his 70th birthday.
Yeah.
We took the B-17 ride.
Yeah.
That was...
Your dad loved that.
Experience. I've got Flight Simulator X with photo scenery, and I ordered the B-17 model, so I've got, actually, I could pilot the B-17, same out of Willow Run Airport now, virtually, kind of.
Yeah,
Not exactly the same thing, but
that's
not
amazing.
at all. But it was.
That's amazing. So, yeah, so we did that stuff, and then your dad got sick with the Lewy body dementia, and that I don't really want to talk about because it makes me very sad. So, all I will say is that I had the happiest years of my life with your dad, and then I had the 5 most heartbreaking years while he was sick, and I wouldn't trade those years in for anything, but they were pretty heartbreaking. So, that was that. And you were a good guy, John. You know, you visited, you helped.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tried somewhat.
Yeah. No, you were good. You were good. So then, after your dad died and my folks died, about a month later, I sort of figured out, I've got a tear in my glasses. A month later, I could see something was wrong with my foot. And I looked up on Wikipedia, and that's where I found out about the symptoms for ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease. And I read up on the symptoms, and I said, that's it, that's what I've got. And so then I went to the doctors, and I started pushing the doctors, and was diagnosed in May of 2014 with it, which was pretty fast, because usually people get misdiagnosed. It's like Lewy body dementia. It's not that common, so the doctors don't always know what they're seeing, and quite often people will be misdiagnosed as maybe they've got, something's just wrong with their foot, or something's just wrong with their hand, and then after things don't get better, they finally get to see an ALS doctor, and they get the diagnosis. So I was very lucky because I got that diagnosis so quickly. And what I ended up doing when I figured out I had this crack disease, said, I'm going on a trip to Russia.
Oh yeah.
So that's when I went on the Trans-Siberian Railroad with the National Geographic. I was with the National Geographic. It was wonderful. It was just a wonderful, wonderful trip. And I flew from here to Moscow to Vladivostok, which is right near Japan.
Yeah. And that's on the west side, or
Yeah.
east side.
East side, way on the east side. I think it's like 13 time zones away.
Were all the Russians kind of Asian over there?
Yeah.
I think towards they imported a lot of the Eastern Russians during World War II, I think, too.
Well, and the Mongols horde all came into Russia way back in the 1200s, 1300s. So
they got the Kazakhstan and Turkestan, and there's
Uzbekistan. There's a bunch of stans. So the trip started in Vladivostok, and got to see that. And the train was just the most luxurious thing going. I mean,
Russian train is luxurious?
Well, this is a private enterprise. You can there's the regular train, and then there is this thing, which is, this is a luxury thing. You're not getting around it. So I had my own private room, and linen sheets, and they would turn down your bed at night, and in the morning, a nice little guy would come in with coffee and a little croissant or something, and I had a little table with fresh flowers and lace curtains, and I could look out the window while I was on the trip. And I brought pictures of your dad with me, so I'd hold the picture up. Come on, look out the window. This is Siberia. So your dad was with me on the whole trip, and it was really, really nice. So, and these towns are very handsome towns way over on the eastern side of Russia. Oh no, very interesting. And we went to visit Mongolia. We went down to Mongolia to Ulaanbaatar. I think that's the capital of Mongolia. And went out into the countryside and visited a Mongolian family and their yurt. You know, got to talk to them and see these Mongolian guys riding their ponies. They're very skilled on riding their ponies. And so this one, they're very proud of Genghis Khan. He was Mongolian. Very proud. And there's this like 5-story tall sculpture of Genghis Khan that is, you can go inside. It's like a sort of a little museum thing going on the inside. You can go all the way up to, like, you know, Mongolia, Genghis Khan's, you know, head, and kind of look out the windows and stuff. It's just crazy.
Supposedly there's a great percentage of Asians are descended from Mongol.
Oh yeah, yeah, like a crazy number.
And the blue spot is one of them at the birth. You get a birthmark, blue birthmark. That's supposed to be the Mongol birthmark.
Really?
I think. I don't know. And supposedly, I guess Marie has one. So.
Really?
I think, if I remember correctly, I could be totally wrong.
Sounds good.
So just disclaimer there. So, but yeah, it was. Just for reference, I think we're probably a mix of just about everything and every.
I think so. Yeah. So that was cool. Then we visited Lake Baikal, which is the largest inland body of fresh water in the world. And I have heard that it is so deep the bottom has never been, you know, touched or so, at least a part of it. And it's also important, now I'm trying to remember how this works. I think usually with a lake, water runs out of a lake. No, water runs into lakes, I guess, from streams.
Okay.
And Lake Baikal is like the only lake in the world where it doesn't do that. It doesn't. It's the opposite. I guess water runs out of it. So that there are various species of things in there that you don't see anywhere else in the world. They're just in Lake Baikal. It's a big place for sturgeon, which is where really fancy schmancy Russian caviar comes from. And we went to this one nature center, and sturgeon are ugly fish. They are long and skinny, and they have teeth that look really pointy and sharp. They're ugly. So we saw that.
They've been around since dinosaurs.
They look,
too.
yeah, they look like they haven't progressed very far either. They look like they're closely related. So we went across the Ural Mountains. We went to Ekaterinburg, where the Tsar and his family were all executed by the revolutionists. Yeah. And we stopped at the point where it separates Asia from Europe. We got to straddle the line. It's like the difference between Asia and Europe. That was fun. And rode a boat on the Volga River, which was one big honking river, and ended up in Moscow. It was totally cool.
Volgograd or Stalingrad, is that on the Volga River?
I think the Volga River comes down to it, yeah. It starts way up in the north and kind of comes down to it.
But you were kind of more than you were.
Yeah, we were way up more northern, closer to Moscow.
Okay.
It was just an amazing, amazing trip. Every night we'd go to the dining room. We had white linen tablecloths and crystal, and your grandmother would have loved it. Very fancy schmancy, including a harpist every night while we had dinner. The harpist played. So.
I think she would have said, well, that would be appropriate.
Yes. Yes, that sounds like something Gammy would have said. Yeah, so it was just wonderful. It was a great trip, and people were nice on the trip, and I learned a lot and saw a lot, and it's just wonderful. So it's all been very good. All been very, very good.
You went with Carl to Russia before.
Yeah, you did, and I went twice to Russia. We went once on a program where we were with a folklorist, and we lived in a little village and were collecting old Russian folk songs from old Russian ladies. They would sing, and we would videotape them and audio tape them, just like you're doing.
Was this part of a heritage or a museum, or just on your own, or?
It's part of this program called Earthwatch, and this is a really good program. Earthwatch is something that matches up researchers with volunteers who would like to help out on the research projects. So there were these Russian folklorists who had been working to collect old folk songs and Russian traditions before the old people die out and the stuff gets lost. But they needed help in, setting up the camera equipment and recording things and taking notes and what have you. So your dad and I went on that and lived in this little village, probably 500 people maybe in the village. We lived there for about a week.
Outhouses?
Yeah, outhouses, which were not always very clean. No running water.
Pump the well water,
Yeah.
boil it, and
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. Your dad, since he was the big strong man, he had to go up to the well and get the water. So we did that. That was really something. And we got to meet these people from the village and the old Russian ladies. And then we went a second time when the Russian Orthodox Church in Russia and the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia, which is a thing, decided to reunite. They had been separated for many years because of the communist regime. And once communism fell, there really wasn't the need for them to be separate anymore. And so we went and got to stand for 8 hours in the Cathedral of Christ the Savior and watch all the ceremony go on and stood near Vladimir Putin. We were about as close to Putin as from here to the Gothic window.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something. So it was pretty, and then we got to go to a whole bunch of other very famous Russian churches and got into places that people just don't get into. We were part of this select group of pilgrims from America, so we got to go to the fancy spots. It was fun. So I'm kind of pooped, John.
Okay.
I think I'm kind of done. So.
Thank you so much. Can we do this again?
I think I'm kind of done. I don't have much more to tell you. This is, since the ALS, I just have been kind of wrapping things up and taking it easy. Yeah. So I think I'm done.
Energy is short, but so good.
Thank you. Well, maybe. We'll see. I will never say never, right?
Please.
Yeah.
Sure.
Never say never. There you
Okay. October 31st, and wrapping up interview. And thank you, Tamara.
Thank you, John.
There's so much more I want to learn. But all this stuff can go into detail. It should be. I'm gonna stop this thing. Here we go. How's it go?